This is my dad, and he doesn't know what I'm about to do. But I know we're hunting, but I gotta make fishing reviews. So we're gonna do the first monster bass unboxing while deer hunting in the woods. I'll just stick this to the side of my head. I don't even need the orange. I'll just stick this MB on each side of me. I don't know if DNR will like that, but we can give it a shot. This has gotta be the first monster bass box out in the middle of the woods. What would be great is if a deer walked by right now. They might come into the smell of these big bite baits. It says not for human consumption. It doesn't say anything about baiting deer.
Hey, before we go any further, I'm gonna show you a few ways that I would rig these up that are definitely gonna be outside the box. So, drop a comment below. How would you rig up a Beaver style bait? And then I'll show you guys some of my favorites.
Ooh. Oh. Oh yeah. What's up everybody? Welcome to the Monster Bass channel. I am Brad with Shield Outdoors, and I am actually in the middle of something right now. We are deer hunting, but I needed to make some monster bass videos, so I brought my stuff with me. I brought my box out in the woods because I'm just so obsessed with it. I couldn't just leave it at home by itself. Plus, it's got my picture in it. My picture and my information is in this box, so if you have any questions, you can find our information here. Shield Outdoors. You can check us out on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter. Send us a message if you ever need anything, and of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel. But also make sure you subscribe right here on the Monster Bass channel. Today we are looking at Big Bite Baits BFE. Let's go. So this little lure is a soft plastic, obviously intended for flipping, punching, and things of that sort. Now, it has an interesting story behind it. This was designed by Bradley Hallman, who designed this for Big Bite Baits. They reached out to him, asked him to design it, and he went ahead and put it together, and he even got his daughter involved. His daughter actually helped him draw it up. He went out, he looked at a ton of different lures, and he said, this is what I have in my mind, told his daughter, and his daughter drew it out, and then Big Bite Baits made it happen. So, obviously it's a very slim lure. It is made for punching and flipping though, so you want a little bit of commotion, right? So you have these ribbed walls on this long, skinny body. And obviously this slimline design is to help get down through the vegetation, but you got these appendages, these little flaps, and then you got like these little antennas, and then you have the big beaver tail style, and it's split on the end for just a little extra kick. So you could take scissors and cut right up the middle of that if you wanted a little more action, or if you want less action, if you want it to be more subtle, you could just pluck these appendages off and you could have one slim line bait. Now, the head was designed specifically so you can use any kind of offset shank, any kind of flipping hook. Dozens and dozens and dozens of companies that make different hooks. So whatever it is that you want to throw, whatever hook you prefer, you can make it work with this head of this lure. Depending on your vegetation, you may want more or less of it to be slimline. So where we fish, we might run into hydrilla. We might run into different kinds of grass. Sometimes we get into some ponds and it's just straight muck, just muddy, nasty, greenery, floaty stuff on top of the water, algae. And something like this is what I would go with. Now, the BFE was introduced for the 2020 ICAST. This is a newer lure. Brad Hallman, the guy who designed this, actually caught an 8-pounder with it. So it's already got some street cred.
Okay, so I had to come home and actually get some gear to show you how I would rig this up, and I think there's gonna be a couple of ways that you wouldn't have even thought of, especially for like a single beaver tail style bait. But I think the most obvious is that it would be a great punching rig. Long, skinny, slim line, single beaver flapper with some appendages. Of course it would be great for punch. At first I grabbed some regular 5/0 hooks, and I was like, well, that's usually what I would use for punching. But then I thought about something that we just got in a Monster Bass box. These spear points with the kind of a new design EWG. So there's a 2/0, 3/0, and a 4/0 in here. If you wanted to rig this up with the spear point with their new EWG design, this would make a great punching rig. Absolutely phenomenal. And I would probably use tungsten. If you can't get a hold of tungsten, you can obviously use a lead sinker, maybe a bullet style, and you would probably peg it. Now what that does is that puts all the weight that puts the weight right at the head of the bait, and then the weight stays right with the front of the lure. So when you are punching, it hits the water, whoop, shoots straight down. And then when you are like vertically jigging it, or when you're popping it through that nasty stuff, whether it be coontails, hydrilla, grass, whatever, it goes straight up with the weight and then turns and goes straight back down. So you have this continuous up and down motion instead of like a Texas rig where the weight gets way out away from it, and then you kind of have like a drifting motion. However, if you wanted to Texas rig this, you could absolutely do so, and you could still have a weight that moves up and down your line. But you guys know me. I like to think outside the box. I like to do things different. So let me show you a few ways that I might would rig something like this that you may not have thought of. Strike King. We're big Strike King people here on the Monster Bass channel, right? Strike King has a jointed structure head. Let me go ahead. I'll get it out. I will rig it up for you, and then I'll show you some close-ups. If you haven't used something like this, they are phenomenal. And not a lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon, so your local fish may not have seen something like this. It looks like a jig head, right? But it's loose. They're like fused together, but they're loose. So what that does, let's go ahead and just rig it up and I'll show you exactly what I mean. If you guys notice, there's like a groove in this BFE, obviously to hide your little hook. Now, so this is what you end up with. You got the bait on the hook, just like you would normally see, but you got that jointed head. Very heavy. I think this is a ½ ounce, maybe a 1 ounce. This is a big one. This sucker's gonna go down, and as it's falling, the bait can move however the current or the water or the appendages, whatever it needs to do on its way down, it has plenty of movement. In the most simplistic form, you can let this hit the bottom and do nothing. You could fish it like a jig, and the lure can still flop around. Maybe you give it a little tug, and it can have a little bit of movement, and it might float to the ground. Maybe the current keeps up off the ground. But what I'm getting at is it's different, big time different, and you don't see a ton of people using them. So a Strike King jointed structure head, that's one way you could rig this bad boy up. Gives you a whole different perspective on jig fishing, swim bait fishing, and it gives you an opportunity that not a lot of people I think are throwing. I just learned how to drop shot this year, and I think it was amazing. So when I revisited the Tokyo rig, I was like, man, it's basically just a way for me to drop shot a giant plastic. So if you're unfamiliar with what a Tokyo rig is, you're gonna put your bait on your hook, and then you tie to this swivel, and then you have this piece of metal. Now what's this for? This is actually a little metal rod. You're gonna put that through a weight, like a bullet weight, whatever you wanna put it through, and you'll crimp it. You'll turn it, take your pliers, crimp it. Oh man, oh, look at this. Obviously I'll give you some nice close-ups. So maybe you're trying to use this jointed structure head and you got a mucky bottom. Maybe you got a nasty bottom or like a really mossy bottom, or it's just, you know, it's just not getting the fish to pick it up off the bottom. Instead, you can use something like this, and your weight is gonna drag the bottom, and your lure is gonna be about 2 to 3 inches off the bottom. Now, these fish are probably not seeing a lot of BFEs. These are a newer lure. They're not seeing a lot of these BFEs. I mean, Brad Hallman already caught an 8-pounder on them, so they work, trust me. It is raining. Why is it raining? It's so sunny. All right, well, apparently it's raining now, so I need to get the camera put away, but I just wanted to show you that always think outside the box. Of course, these are a punching rig. That's primarily what most people will use them for, but you can use a structured jig head. You can use a Tokyo rig. You can rig these things up and do some crazy stuff with them, and the fish are gonna bite it. Just always think outside the box.
I got my dad with me. He's just watching me make fishing videos while we're supposed to be hunting. But don't worry, we haven't seen anything but squirrels, so might as well punch out some lures. Make sure you like this video. Make sure you comment on this video. Make sure you subscribe to the Monster Bass channel. They got us out here making videos out in the middle of the woods. Make sure you check out some of the other videos if you enjoyed this one. Check out Shill Outdoors. Peace.